can't turn your phone while recording. Okay, hold on. So is it good? Can you see me?
Yes.
Good.
But I'm not the wrong way.
I'm the wrong way. Which way do I need to rotate? Hi guys, everyone hopping on. Thanks for dealing with the technical difficulties right now. I'm gonna flip myself the right way around. Hot tip of the day, if you use Google Chrome, do not update it through your Facebook. All right, hold on 1 second here. It's very Monday today. All right, are we straight on?
Yes, now you're straight on.
Yay, now we're straight on. All right, let me just adjust this. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being patient while we have our technical difficulty there. All right. Give it a few more minutes for people to come on. Hi, everyone. And then this just needs like a base here. Thank you, guys. Hey, we did it! Oh, hope you guys got to enjoy some extra sips of coffee. Yeah, hi Jennifer, hi Barbie. Yes, we did it. Good stuff. Aw, thank you, Princess Smith.
Hey, Jessica. Hey, Karen
Hi,
Odell.
Karen. Ah, that's good, man. Hi, everyone. Give everyone another minute. Another minute or so.
Yeah,
just 3 more.
Why don't you remind everybody again about the Chrome thing?
Yeah, so if you use Google Chrome, do not update it via your Facebook because that will give you a little bit of technical difficulties. So I'll save you from your Mondays on that aspect. And thanks so much again for bearing with us and sticking around to hop on a little bit later than the start time. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Loving the friends.
Aw, thank you.
We're going to give a shout out to the husband, Joe, for the help this afternoon.
Yes. Thank you very much, Joe. I don't know where I'd be without him right now. Probably not on live with you guys. I'd be crying. So very thankful. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be sharing, too.
We have such a crowd already.
I know. I love it. Thank you, guys. Like, you're making my heart so happy, like, being so patient. I swear, like, my cheeks hurt from smiling right now. I'm not gonna lie. Yes. Thanks, Joe. Everyone's thanking Joe. I'll make sure to let him know. He ran back upstairs. He was gonna give me his work computer and everything, so...
Why don't you go ahead and get started?
Yeah, awesome. So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you guys are joining us from. Thank you so much again one more time for dealing with all of our technical difficulties there. My name is Jessica Bartolucci. I'm a Kuhn Academy trainer, and I am so excited today to be here sharing with you the new 90s. It is a modern take on the dynamic highlight that we all, I think, definitely know. If you remember the 90s, you know, pop in the comments someone iconic that had that 90s hairstyle, that 90s look. I'd love to see what you guys come up with. On the phone with me here is Miss Jessica Mills. She is going to be helping, giving me your comments, feedback, any questions you guys have. So please write them in the comments, and we'll, do our best to give you the answers and share along. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to just move this a little bit more so you guys can see it, hopefully. There we go. Is that good? Can we see? Beautiful. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you guys Emma. And this is the end result of the new 90s look. So she definitely has this really bright, beautiful face framing, money piece, if you will, around that forefront there, heading all the way around, giving that real high contrast in her look. So on Emma, what I utilized was Kuhn's Cream Blonde with 30 volume. And I just left that raw, so there's no toner on her currently because I really wanted that high contrast and that 90s vibe. And then I did shampoo her out with the Silver Savior shampoo and conditioner after I finished her off with the After Color Care shampoo and balsam by Kuhn. And then on top of this, I did want her natural was a level 7. So I took our Semi 5.23, hopefully you guys, oh, there we go, can see that there, Semi 5.23 with our activator, 1 part color to 2 parts activator. And I wanted just to deepen her base a little bit to really show that pop of that contrast for the 90s look, which I think is super cool. As we go through this look, it's really great because you can take bits and pieces to really customize it for your guests behind the chair. So like say you're like, I don't know if my client is up for this contrast sort of a look. This is, I'll call this one Emma number 1. She has the natural base of her 7. So the same technique, just without that darker contrasted look. So you can really customize it for your guest behind the chair as well. So without further ado, who's ready to get into the technique? Anyone say anything good? Anyone remember any of the iconic celebrities of the 90s with the highlight yet?
We've gotten Farrah.
Oh, okay. Farrah, I like Farrah. I was thinking Kelly Clarkson. No Kelly Clarksons out there.
No, Aquanet, Hairspray, and Big Bangs, baby.
Oh, Big Bang. Yeah, we were talking about that. I should have done the mall bang, Jess said. I was like, that would have been hilarious. I was going to crimp my hair, but it was going to be the whole screen, so
So Jess, I just want to, because we had someone mention your flip chart through the iPhone is actually flipped. All the words are backwards.
Okay.
So if you just want to let everybody know that we will post all of the head sheets and everything for their...
Absolutely.
Just so they can see them correctly.
Absolutely. So yeah, we'll definitely post all of the head sheets for this look when we're done on Kuhn's, on this page here for you guys. And I'll also put them on my Instagram in a stories, and I'll make sure I share it to highlight. So that's at Jessica_Bartolucci on Instagram, and those will be up there for you guys to snapshot and save for future use. Thankfully there's not too many words, but I know with the little technical difficulties you might not be able to see them, but we'll definitely share them for you guys. So starting out with this look, I kind of was inspired by the beach ball sectioning. Again, kind of that classic 90s look, but I wanted to keep it a little bit simpler. So if you guys did have watched any of my styling videos from earlier, I really like to take things and simplify them down a little bit. This whole look takes about 25 to 30 foils depending on the density of a client's hair. So Emma here took me about 25 foils. And again, you can go big with it and do a lot more smaller foiling sections, or even take back on that. But I think it's just really nice, again, going back in the efficiency of this whole look. So you'll see here is I sectioned out Emma right from the ear tip going all the way around, so ear tip to ear tip. And I want to make sure that I really grab this hair here, right behind her hair, because this is going to be really critical that this ear tip portion doesn't hit into this side. And you'll see why as we progress into the foiling pattern here. So from there, what we did is just took out a triangular section on the top there. And how I decided how far back to go was simply by placing the comb on top of the head, just on the flat of the head there, and wherever that comb left on that front is where I took that point. It might seem like a lot of hair. When I first started doing this technique, I took just a small amount because it kind of scared me to take this much hair and be like, wow, I'm going to highlight all of that. It's going to be too much. But I found when I took a smaller portion, I was left with wanting more. So again, up to your discretion, and it's a great way to kind of learn and, find out where your comfort zone is with that as well. So we'll start out in the back, in her hair back section here. Any questions so far, Jess? Are we doing good?
Not yet. We're doing good.
Great, 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 great. All right, can we see her? Do I need to move her up or anything? We're all right? All right, so in this back, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna section out straight down the middle here. Clip that on away. And to start off on the bottom section here, I'm gonna utilize our Freedom Blonde Lightener. So inside of our Freedom Blonde Lightener, I did put in one Cool Booster packet just to help with neutralizing out any of that warmth in the hair. Now, why I'm choosing to utilize the Freedom Blonde on these bottom sections is just because of that reason alone. It gives me the freedom to be able to create, and I don't have to worry about a foil around the nape of the neck. I know sometimes it's really hard to get like up close and personal with a foil. I don't like to, you know, personally for me, like kind of jumble around with the foil right at that nape. So I find that the Freedom Blonde is really easy for me to get as close up as I need to be. So I'll turn her around a little bit here. So what we'll want to do is take our first section and we're going to kind of create, I guess it's almost like an L shape, if you will. Can you guys see that there? Perfect. So what I like to do when I am sectioning is I like to just give a little bit of like a jig to my rat tail comb here, just to kind of make sure that I don't have a straight line. What that does is gives me a little bit more of an insurance that everything is going to fall a little bit more naturally for me at the end. You can absolutely take a very clean section parting. That's just kind of my preference and something I've learned that makes my life behind the chair a little bit easier. So we're going to clip that up and away, and we'll do the same thing on the other side of her head. So again, creating that little bit of an L shape. Now you see, I do go pretty far up by this ear. Not all the way up. I am going to leave a little bit of this hair here, so maybe about, I guess, like a ½ inch of that section on that ear to put into a different foil as we move up the head. But why it's so important to take that L shape sectioning, especially when we're thinking about like that 90s highlight and that really big face frame around, is this is what's going to create a lot of that lightness around the face. So when Emma puts her hair down, we'll see that all of this hair here has lightness and brightness to her hair. How are we doing out there? Good so far?
Good.
Great. Take that and push that away. Awesome. So taking our first section here, grab one more clip on hand, and what we're going to do is just take a really deep V section in this middle here and clip this up and away. So this, if you essentially think about it, is going to be like the low light. So whether you keep that hair separate and natural with what their hair is, or decide to go back and color it like with a 5.23 like I decided to do, is totally like up to you and your artistic preference as well. So now what I'm visualizing here is when this gets highlighted and you put this down, this is going to be that chunkier highlight that you're going to end up with. Now the part where we make it a little bit more modern, if you will, is when we come in with a little bit of a back combing with it. So I do like to take a teasing comb is my preference on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go about halfway into this hair strand and push up just to give myself a little bit of a tease. I'm going to do about 2 teases on the top. That way when this hair gets brushed back out, I'm going to have that natural blend of that line there. So from here, I'm just going to take that Freedom Blonde. I'm just going to put a little bit onto a balayage board here so I have that stick to the hair, and go on in and color this in with my Freedom Blonde Clay Lightener. Any questions?
Nope, not yet.
Doing good? Great, awesome.
Everyone's engaged.
Awesome. So what I'm doing as well is I'm making sure that I'm just keeping a little bit of elevation and I'm not going straight down. Even though I have that insurance, if you will, of that the tease in here, the more that you elevate, if you think about just in hair cutting, like what does elevation end up giving you? And that's layers, softness, and blend, right? So go through and let that on down. And what I love about this lightener too is I know that I can then release that middle piece here, and I'm not going to get any transfer of color, and you can visually start to see your work coming to life. So same thing on this other side. What we'll do here is I'm just going to take out this very, very small section like of her nape right in that middle, because if I'm thinking about maybe my guest puts her hair up, and you know, if she wants a highlight in that middle, if she doesn't, depending on the density and everything like that as well. So again, I'm just gonna go in, taking that very deep V and clipping that up and away.
So Jess, I want to know where you got the board.
Oh, so this board actually came, this is actually a Kuhn balayage board, and that was in a, I think the Freedom Blonde packaging kit. So I'm sure you can still find these if you go to, can we find the board somewhere, Jess?
Possibly? I would check your local distributor.
There you go, check your local distributor for the boards. That's easy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so again, giving 2 pushes up. Now, again, total preference. The more teas that you push up, the deeper of the root that you're gonna have. So if you wanna go push straight up into that root area, then by all means, absolutely do. I just think this is a fun way to keep it a little bit more modernized, and that way they might be able to, you know, last between appointments a little bit longer. And just make sure you really have that nice and saturated along that bottom area.
So Jess, you know, we hear sometimes that when you're doing this technique and you're doing the teasing, that when you go to rinse them out, sometimes that's difficult. Do you have any tips to not have that hair get all tangled up?
Absolutely. So it's pretty funny. Like, I personally was always a little bit skeptical to do the teasing look, because the same thing. I was like, I don't want to get back to that sink and absolutely make her hurt and rip her hair apart. So what's really helpful is if you take that hair here and you push that on up. If you just take, I like to take like a vent brush or a Denman brush, and instead of going horizontal with it when you brush it out, if you just take that out with that nice vertical, that comes right on out into the sink too. And I will say I did learn that little tip and trick from my good friend and colleague Alicia Dixon, so thank you very much for that tip. I think we were actually at the academy one time and I was like, oh, and a light bulb went off. So it's really nice to get those little tips and tricks. Again, what you want to make sure is you're not packing in that tease. So it's just a really nice soft push. You're not like packing it in like you would maybe for like a little, like an up style, if you will. And then I'm just gonna do one more in that middle, because what I'm gonna be looking for is that high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low. Again, with my balayage board, going in, making sure I'm saturated. And I do like to keep my brush more on a vertical as I'm pushing up, just to, again, reinforce and give me that insurance that I don't have a harsh line of demarcation in that color.
And the color that the hair that you're applying the color to, it's the outer pieces of your middle triangle, correct?
Correct, yes. So when you go around, you'll see that this is the outer portion. So you go outer, and then your inner and the outer. So right there, so when you're one triangle, your middle section is going to be the one where you're coloring the middle portion of that triangle. So that way you get your high, low, high going forward through there. And I'll take that down so you guys can see that. Cool. So real time, like if we're in the salon, and not slowing it down for like the live, you could probably do this within 2 minutes, I'd say. 2 minutes. I feel like that's a safe bet to do. All right, I'm gonna switch this. Not sure if you guys are totally able to see it, but it'll keep us on track. Hopefully you can see it a little bit behind us. So after we're done with this bottom section here, we will release those 2 sections.
And what did developer did you use with your Freedom Blonde?
Oh, great question. So what developer did I choose with my Freedom Blonde? So I chose to utilize the 40 volume with the Freedom Blonde with my Cool Booster because I wanted my maximum levels of lift. So I'm going to get up to 6 levels of lift with my Freedom Blonde there. Which is really nice on my level 7. Again, it's mannequin hair, but I feel like when you're behind the chair, you know, you can use your 10-20 volume if you just want a little bit of a push. I like to go with the 40, and the hair is really soft and beautiful still as well when I let that down. So from here on my next section, I'm going to be going in diagonal backs. So you will see that my sections are a little bit thicker. And this is something that I found, especially for this look, if I went thinner, everything just sort of became like blended together. Like, I don't know about you guys, but if you're ever behind the chair and you just did all of this work and then you washed out your client and then you're like, where did all of that dimension go, right? I find that sometimes we just want to foil the whole head and cover it all. So to give space to let that hair like breathe and have room to have dimension is just something to keep in the back of our heads the whole time. So we went on a diagonal back line, again, just creating sort of that V, and you'll see that we're inching our way up to the head here. And in these sections is where we're going to do a foiling technique. You can absolutely keep going with your Freedom Blonde if you like, but I just like to have the little foils in there as well sometimes. So I'm going to be taking this section, and I'm thinking about where my hair is lightened underneath here. So if I were to start on the outside here, when this hair falls down, it's going to marry and blend right on top of that other blonde piece underneath. So I'm not going to be highlighting the outers of this. I'm going to be doing the inside. Again, I'm going to go through and I'll take 1, 2, this way, sorry. I'm like doing it opposite for you guys. Okay, so 1 and 2 here. So I'm going to have 2 sections, and this is where I'm going to utilize my highlights. So my outside corners of this triangle are going to be the low light, if you will. Again, we're going to go through here and just take a little bit of a tease so I have that nice drag to the hair. And in these foiling sections, what I'll be utilizing is our cream blonde. And I chose to utilize 30 volume with the cream blonde to give me the maximum amount of lift. So everything kind of ends up and marries at the same point when I'm done with my blonde here. I mean, the beauty of this is you can absolutely, if somebody's say they're too blonde or they want more dimension, you can absolutely take this technique here and push in a low light. So instead of utilizing lightener, you can utilize, you know, the semi or like the tinta as well. So a permanent or a semi application inside of there.
So why did you switch lighteners, Jess?
I like to have a little bit of a variety, honestly, and I think, like, especially like for the live, I just kind of wanted to, you know, showcase the different products that you can utilize behind the chair. And sometimes I just do feel like I like the foil because it just keeps me like engaged on where I am in the hair, as well as just kind of keeps everything away from the guest face too. So after this foil packet, I'll be going back into the lightener, the Freedom Blonde lightener, excuse me.
Awesome.
So moving back onto this side, super easy. We're going to take this out. Again, going in with a deep V. And you'll see that that picks up that whole section there. Going into the middle and just giving it 1, 2 on that back comb. And placing my foil underneath.
Did you add a blue booster to this one as well?
So I did not. That's a great question. Did I add a blue booster into the cream lightener as well? I did not, just for the fact on her hair at least, for Emma's hair here, with it being in a foil, it definitely does get past that warmth pale yellow phase. So if your guest has if your guest has hair that isn't gonna get past that like baby chick yellow or banana yellow, adding that blue booster in to neutralize any unwanted warmth is always a great plus. But I feel like in the foil packet, the cream lightener is gonna get me to where I wanna go. And again, on that mannequin there, I just left it nice and raw, and it didn't have any of that warmth attached to it. Does that answer the question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And closing that packet up. And I'm removing.
I think I meant to say, I have a question. I
Yeah.
think I meant to say blonde.
Blonde.
The one that you just did, is she going to see blonde when her hair is down?
Yes, the one that I did, this one here, this
Yes.
foil packet. Yes, so depending on where your like placement is, definitely you're gonna have that nice bright bit of blonde coming through in this like the exterior, if you will, around her hair in the perimeter, and then this is gonna give some nice blonde in the interior, and then it all kind of comes around. Does that answer the question? Okay. So what we'll do in that next section is we're just going to mimic that first sectioning underneath here. Going through. And you'll see so far, you know, we don't have a lot of foils, we don't have a lot of lightener, which is really nice too. I know sometimes with some guests' hair, if it's very like fine, you don't want to have too many foils in there in case they slip out. So that's another great reason, you know, if you want to reach for your Freedom Blonde as well. So just to mimic that underneath, we're going to highlight those outside corners. And again, I'm just going to give one nice push for my tease. Putting on the Freedom Blonde onto those ends. Any other questions? We doing good out there?
I just had a light bulb.
What's your light bulb?
Are you ready?
Maybe. Yes.
So, like how you called jiggle the foiling comb.
Hey, give it a little jig.
Yeah, it was in my day, sweetheart. It was called a zigzag parting.
Oh, zigzag. There you go, a little zigzag parting. Yeah, I'm like, well, I guess that would make sense because you zigzag here. I'm like, I like to give it a little jig. It's for the Irish, right? It's for the. It reminds me of dancing. I don't know. Why not, right? Okay, so again, 2 pushes up in there. And again, you know, if you want to have a little bit more of that drop, you can get into like 3 pushes. The more you push up, the more you're going to have that root like melt or shadow or drop or whichever word makes your heart happy there. Awesome. Laying that on top.
Where did you get the comb?
This comb is from YS Park. I do love this teasing comb here. With the teeth, it just gives me personally everything that I'm looking for, but you know, that's all that definitely like personal preference as well. Awesome. And then letting that on down.
Okay, another question for you.
Yeah.
If you were working with a level 5 or below, how would you approach the process?
If I was working with a level 5 or below, how would I approach this process? What is the end result going to be on that? Are we looking for like a bright blonde?
That was the question. Let's see if she responds.
Okay. As we wait for that, we'll go up to the next section. How's that sound?
Yeah.
So
I have another question there too. How do you figure out as far, I guess, pick up the hair for the highlights? Like which hair you want to pick up? As I'm reading that question.
Yeah. So what hair? The question was, what hair am I looking to pick up for the highlights? It's super funny actually with that question. I was sitting in my kitchen like 3 days ago, like creating these mannequins, and I looked over at Joe, my husband, and I was like, conceptualize. I was like, what's the difference between conceptualizing and visualizing, right? So I actually went on Google and looked at it. And visualizing is, you know, obviously you're visualizing something happening. And then conceptualizing is actually like when you visualize something and complete it to the end. So I was like, it actually makes sense to me that you're conceptualizing where you want those highlights and lowlights at the end. So you're really just kind of like playing that in your head and being like, when this hair falls here, that's what I want to see. When this hair falls there, that's what I want to see. Does that answer the question? In a long roundabout, right?
Yeah, I got a response on the level 5 approach. She said not a bright blonde.
Oh, okay. I mean, if you're looking in the starting level was a level 5 or 6.
I think she's looking for just a more natural result with this technique on darker.
Cool.
levels.
So what I would do if I was looking like on a level like 5 or below and I'm looking for maybe a more natural end result, I would absolutely go into our high lift 1519. I love the high lift 1519 either with 30 volume or 40 volume, because what that's going to do is it has a blue base ash to it as well, which is our 1, as well as the 9, which is our green or anti-red. And when you utilize that on either previously colored hair, it's going to affect it. Or if you're looking on a virgin application, it's absolutely going to give you lift. And you end up with this really beautiful caramel end result. So that way you're not like highlighting and then toning on top of that. That's just one of my personal preferences to utilize a high lift for that darker sort of hair. Does that answer the question, hopefully? Yeah? Cool. All right, so what we did up here is you'll see that we took this like triangular section right in the middle here. And this, again, kind of going back to like visualize versus conceptualize, right? So if I were to place this hair down here, what I'm gonna wanna see for me is I'm gonna wanna see maybe a highlight right in the middle. So if I were to lift this up here, this becomes my low light, because what this hair is going to do is lay directly on top of that blonde. And if that's the low light, it'll blend really seamlessly. Now, if I wanted maybe to make this bolder and I wanted a chunkier, if you will, more dynamic highlight, then I would absolutely highlight this so that becomes a bigger dynamic strip. So moving up here in this section, again, I'm going to take that Freedom Blonde. And that's why, too, sometimes I like to utilize, you know, the different with the foils with the cream lightener as well as the, the foils with the cream lightener as well as the Freedom Blonde open air, because it just allows me to visualize and see everything a little bit more. Moving that on up. Perfect. So now the top of the head, we're just gonna finish out in 3 foils, which is super fun. So we're gonna make sure that we have enough hair in our sections for about 3 foils on top. And in this top here, I'm actually not gonna be teasing, because I do wanna see that highlight kind of like building up a little bit closer into this hair. So what we'll do here is I'm going to be taking the outside of my stitch, if you will, and that is what I'll be highlighting. So I'm going to take kind of like a medium weave and then go in with my foil. Lift that hair up, place that on over. And what I do love when you take those like thicker like stitches, if you will, is you'll see that the foil doesn't necessarily marry right on top of that scalp. So this does give me a little bit of that drop shadow and that drop root. So it's not straight up on that scalp when you take a little bit of a thicker of a section. How are we doing? Any questions out there?
Not right now.
Great.
You know what I love about this technique, Jess? Well, what inspired you? I know we said the 90s kind of inspired you, but like, how did you come up with this technique?
That's a great question. So I ended up, I guess, coming up with this technique, you know, just by being inspired by a whole gamut of things. I'm not gonna lie, I think it was like last August, Kim Kardashian came out with her on her head. She had this like caramel chunky 90s, and of course on the media, you know, love them, hate them, whatever way you go with it, like the media went crazy about it. And, you know, I saw people enjoying it. I saw people being like, no, I never want the 90s to come back, right? And then more and more recently, I saw other celebrities coming out, like Jennifer Lopez had it. I think another Kardashian had the money piece. And I was like, okay, I guess realistically, going forward, to make it more client-friendly, how could we modernize the 90s technique? And, you know I'm sitting here maybe wanting something different with my hair. And I'm sure just like you guys behind the chair, my guests are always like, what's new? What's fresh? I'm bored with my hair. Give me something different. So this is something that's really, you know, something different, but something definitely approachable, I think, for like everyday salonable wear as well. Yeah. So moving forward and moving on up. Now that I had this as a medium stitch, I'm gonna go, as I work my way into these foils, a little bit smaller in my stitching pattern. So since this I started on the outside, I'm gonna make sure my outside is left out as my low light and pick up on my insides here and go a little bit smaller in my sectioning than I did before. If you have a little bit more like circumference over in here, I think that's the right word, you can definitely split this up into 2 subsections. If not, you know, you can definitely grab it all into one foil as well. And again, having that little bit of that deeper sectioning is giving me some nice space for that little bit of a lived-in dragged root section there. Foiling through, just again, you know, same as before, taking my brush in a more vertical section just to kind of feather that up there so I don't have any harsh lines to work with later. Some really great saturation. And there we go. So, well, I shared with you guys like kind of what inspires me. What inspires you guys? Leave it in the comments. Why not, right? I always love to see like other inspirations from other people too, because you never know, you know? I just said it today. Sharing is caring. So moving up in here, again, let me just hold on, pivot her so I can see her. All right, leave that out there. Perfect. Okay, so moving into that next section up here, I am gonna take, what I'm thinking, this is the top of her head. So just to stay in true 90s inspired fashion, I'm gonna take that outside stitch and that's what I'm gonna decide to highlight there. So a little bit smaller than the one previous underneath there. And then right on top. Doing good out there? Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
This one is, it says, most of my clients are older and they want a classic normal highlight. I was wondering, is it for every hairstylist?
This technique, I absolutely think so. I mean, I definitely think, you know, obviously this look is, you know, called the new 90s. But what I learned, you know, as I was creating, as I was foiling, you can absolutely, instead of taking giant sections from below, you can make those a little bit smaller. And I think that this technique is definitely for every stylist. And maybe if it's not the whole look from top to bottom, you could take bits and pieces that you might like and you could like attach that to, you know, your client's name and make that for them too.
Awesome. What I'm noticing too, Jess, is that you definitely used a lot more hair, lighter sections on the bottom. And share with us the result that you're going to see from the sectioning that you're doing now.
Oh, on the benchmark? Yes?
Right.
Yes, okay.
What would be that difference?
Yeah.
How it looks?
So that difference here is, so if I were to take this benchmark, I mean, as we can see, I'll flip her upside down. Like that's pretty like chunky highlight. You can definitely tell, like it almost gives you that vibe back when we had like dark underneath and light on top, which is super fun. But if I were to take Emma here, not give her that, the other one, not give her a high contrast, you can definitely see that it's a little bit softer in that interior of her hair. So that's definitely a lot softer of an end result, just by keeping the colors a little bit closer together, maybe 1 or 2 tones apart, levels apart, sorry. Whereas with her, this is her level 5.23 as her base with that high lift blonde on the top. So I think too, like in those color choices that you pick is definitely going to be, you know, a little bit either softer or more high of a contrast for your guest behind the chair. So moving forward into here, we'll go into the side sections now that we've finished up that back. Awesome. And this is one of my favorites too, because in this side section, if you're looking for somebody who maybe wants more of that like money piece or more of that dynamic highlight that we're starting to see come into place, this is a great way to achieve that. So you could just take this section and, you know, do whatever you usually love to do. That's your own signature, you know, balayage probably into the back and just incorporate this, and it's really fun. Something else about this sectioning that I really enjoy is you'll see when I drop this out that I have that deep sectioning here. When I drop this hair down and when you start to see that lived in, all of this top hair is going to start to spill over all of that work that we did underneath. And that's what's going to really help to kind of create those like ribbon effects and that nice contrast that you get with the hair. So even just taking down that sectioning and visualizing that. Question?
So with that said, Jess, would you change your section sizes or technique for finer hair?
Would I change my section sizes or technique for finer hair? Absolutely. I feel like for finer hair, if I was looking for this higher contrast, I would probably go thicker with my sectionings and with you know, my technique as well, just so they're able to see that more of that dynamic highlight to it. Because if you were too small with it, then again you're going to end up with the end look of like, I did all that work, but where's all my dimension? Does that answer that for you? Cool. So
then while you're working, I'll ask you one more.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Any suggestions for quick overall lift for extremely long and thick blonde, about a level 9, just brightening it a little more?
Oh, brightening a little bit more. How bright do we want to go? So one more time for that question, please.
Sure. Any suggestions for a quick overall lift for extremely long and thick blonde? That would be a level, that's already a level 9, and they're just wanting to brighten it up a little bit more.
Honestly, there's so many options spinning in my head right now, to be honest with you. Cream, I like our cream lightener, the cream lightener I'm using currently, because it is very soft, it's very gentle. If they are already at that level 9 hair, that's going to give them that brightness and the lift that they're looking for. If you're looking to maybe step away from a lightener, you could use, it's like a high lift hybrid that Kuhn carries, and it's our Tinta 2000 with 40 volume with the little booster packet inside, and that's going to give you a lot of lift as well. So you get about like 6 to 7 levels of lift with those two. Low volume, maybe even like a 10 or a 20, depending on that contrast you're looking for. Does that answer the question?
Cool. I think this is a great technique too for really thick hair.
Yeah, absolutely. For very thick hair, I mean, I think that's what I love about this is you can use it on everybody, and that's what I don't know. That's what I kind of like about these techniques is it doesn't like just kind of like pop you into one spot and you're like, great, I can't use that on anyone. You know, I think you could take bits and pieces of the whole thing and utilize it for everyone. So moving on, if you guys remember how we subsectioned out that very bottom. What we'll do here is, again, take that L shape to the hair. So we're going to pretend like that's like an L, right? Kind of a V, an L-ish shape. What you're going to really want to do here is just follow your client's hairline. And then that's what's going to give you that really beautiful money piece, if you will, end result. So from here, we'll just take out that first section of hair. So then you have 2 sections. The section closer to the ear most likely is always just going to be a little bit smaller than the hair that you're taking out from that high recession to right about like that temple. this one is always going to be a little bit thicker. So no matter the amount or the density of hair that your client may have right around here, because as we all know, it changes with every guest, and these mannequins are lovely enough to have a lot of hair around here. Just always keep in mind you want this one slightly smaller than this section. So again, moving forward with this, I'm just going to take a push of the teasing comb up, and then in here we are going to take that cream blonde and give that a really nice highlight here. Now, what I do like to do, and I think is really important once it comes, I mean, it's important the whole way through, but especially right around these hairlines, is if your guest is someone who might pull up their hair for ponytails, like, do they want to see the blonde right away at the scalp, or do they want a little bit of that natural wiggle room around? So that depends. If they say they want a little bit more of a natural, they don't want the blonde right at the scalp, then definitely the tease is going to be your BFF. If they don't mind and they want to see the blonde straight there, then you can absolutely take either like a weave or a slice to get that straight up on the scalp for you. Any other questions out there? We doing good?
We're doing good. You're at 20 minutes.
Oh, cool. Perfect. I like that. All right, so we'll get through this side here. Now that we have that all nice and foiled up, this is the same thing. So you'll see the way this is sectioned is at that high of that recession there. Again, utilizing this and combing it back. I do find that where you stand definitely helps as well. So if you're looking like maybe you're not going to be wanting to like stand in front of your client, you can always start in the back section and just work your way like back this way, so then this foil ends up like this at the very end, if you'd like as well.
So what are you calling this technique, Jess? Somebody asked.
Oh, this is the new 90s. This technique is called the new 90s. Just a modern take on the dynamic highlight. But again, like, I don't know, I think it really is for everyone, you know, just a new technique and a different way to go about, you know, maybe a balayage that we're doing currently, which is fun.
And then what about if you're dealing with someone with gray hair?
With gray hair, that's a great question. So what if we are dealing with somebody who has gray hair and they want to utilize this technique? Personally, what I would do is I would go through and do their root retouch first, covering their grays, and then I would go through and highlight. Personally, I find that that's a little bit easier for me, but you can absolutely go through and say that, you know, you want to do it section by section. We'll pretend there's some color on here. You could totally go through, do their grays, drag that down to maybe where they want to see it, and then utilize your lightener from there. What I would do is I'd just leave a little bit of space, like I wouldn't blend those two colors together. That way, again, you just get a nice seamless end result, and you don't have to worry about like any banding or warmth to the hair. Does that answer the question for you?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Oh, can you repeat how long this would take in the salon?
Oh, absolutely. So salon time behind the chair. This look typically will take you about 45 minutes to an hour. Like if you have like just average like speed behind the chair. I did do the mannequin in an hour time, and it's nice because it only takes about like 25 to 30 foils. So it's something that gives you a lot of impact at the end in a really kind of like fast salon time. And then going from there, you'll see, this is why I really love to utilize the Freedom Blonde, especially on those bottom portions in here, is you'll see that this highlight right here, we're gonna wanna marry that right into this section. And just, again, on a diagonal back, go right on up. So when this hair spills and she gets that curl, again, if you want to see a nice like blonde strip here, because she really wants that nice like highlight like right around the nape of her neck there, then you can absolutely do that as a blonde. If you don't want that pop of a punch of a blonde or lightness there, then absolutely leave that as a low light. So again, it's just, you know, visualizing that end result and what your client's wants are as well. So with this, because it is right around the face, and we are inspired by that 90s vibe, I'm again just going to take that again and take one more slice in that front. Now, if somebody doesn't want as thick of a blonde piece up front, maybe they're like, I'm there yet, but I'm not like all the way there, you know what I mean? Then absolutely weave that and leave out a little bit for a low light, and that'll soften it out for you. So what's fun about this is you can just kind of take it, marry it into what you want to see as well, or your client wants to see. So this is just the tease and the slice and working that way up, making sure you just have that nice saturation around the front.
What mannequin are you using? Emma Light?
This is Emma Light, yes, Emma Light.
From Hair Art.
From Hair Art. She really does get a beautiful lift, I gotta say. So moving...
Love our friends at Hair Art.
Love our friends at Hair Art, yes. So moving from there, going forward, we're gonna take another section, and in here, again, we only have 3 more foils left, which is pretty cool. So we'll take the one section there on that diagonal back. And now that I know that I have brightness and brightness around her face here, so we'll have the brightness like straight up here and straight up here. If you want to continue to have a lot of thickness, then I would do a highlight here. If maybe you want to soften and spill that out, then, hold on one second. There we go. Perfect.
Oh my God.
Yeah, sorry. Technical difficulty Monday, you know? So what you could do here is also just leave this out as a low light. But what I do love about this teasing technique is it's gonna start to give you that drop and that drag to the hair. So I'm just gonna go, instead of 1 tease, I'm gonna push up on 2. And then I still wanna see brightness, but it's just gonna start to spill once I actually take this out of the foils. And I know it's kind of crazy. Like, I just remember like the first time I did this, I was like, it seems a little too blonde. And then when I washed it out, I wanted more, you know? So I think this is definitely a technique that, you know, if you have the time, or if you definitely want, like, grab a mannequin yourself and just play with it. And, you know, that's really how you'll kind of learn what works for you. And then when your client says their wants and needs, you know how to kind of like marry that for them. Awesome. So now that we have that one there, fold that up.
So, Jess, would you want the hair, the cut, pre-cut before you would do this?
I definitely think it depends. So the question was, would you want the hair pre-cut before this? I feel like if they are gonna end up in like a shag or something super transformative, then absolutely, because you don't want to see all that color work just fall to the floor. However, if they're maybe gonna get like a trim after, then you can absolutely like trim it up after, and it's just knowing your cut to your color and your color to your cut. So that's all in setting up the consultation as well, and then just the way that you wanna work. But if they are gonna have a major transformation, I would say definitely cut first, and then color it, so you're not cutting off all that work that you just did. Does that answer the question for you?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you. So moving forward from here, I am going to start to leave some hair out. So you'll see I still have that like bigger section in here. I'm going to sort of take a medium slice. I'm going to leave this out. So that starts to, again, give me a little bit more of that dimension to her hair. And I'm just going to go back in with one really nice tease in that section. I'll just move that away. And having this all on those deep diagonals is really going to be, you know, key to when this hair kind of spills down. after it's out of all of these foils too. So coloring that up. Closing that on up. And then we will be on to our last foil on the top here. Don't want to lose, Jess.
I've never been dropped on my head so many times.
I don't want to. So what we'll do here is we'll see that, you know, back when we were talking about this section being so important, you'll see that this starts to give you that spill. So if I'm thinking about like that dynamic highlight, I want to see this as a low light. So I will actually take like the tip of this triangle and not lighten this. Now, if again you want a little bit softer, like the lighter contrasted Emma number 1, I think we called her, then you can absolutely go in and do like a slice or a weave on this tip, just to keep it a little bit softer, but I want a little bit of that thicker piece. And in here, what I'll be doing is just a medium weave to the hair, because I do want this, again, to be a little more dynamic.
So question for you, Jess.
Yes.
Have you done this technique using a darker than natural level low light and a lightener?
A darker than natural level low light and a lightener. So this technique being done that way. Well, I'd have to say yes. I mean, especially on that Emma. So she had the natural 7, and then we ended up utilizing for her low light the semi 5.23 in Kuhn. So you can absolutely go through, and if you want a low light while you're highlighting, you absolutely can. So that was about 2 levels darker than her natural hair, which was really nice. And I think too, even if somebody, you know, maybe wanted some contrast, but a 5 was too dark for them, you could even just take their level 7 and make it a 6, maybe amp it up a little bit more, warm it up for them just to see that contrast a little bit. Does that answer the question for you? Cool.
It's 9 minutes.
Beautiful. So what we'll do is skip straight to the top. How does that sound? Because the other side is exactly the same. And again, we'll have all of the head sheets up for you guys on the Facebook, as well as then on the Instagram as well. So from here, to get that money piece again, we're going to continue to follow the hairline, just like we did on that side. So what I love again about this technique is if they part the hair on the left, on the right, or in the middle, this technique will give them that color spill any way that they're looking for it. So just to make my life a little bit easier, I am going to subsection that front hairline and take this here. And I'm just going to mimic what we did on the sides, is that tease in that front there. Again, the more you tease, the more of a drop they're going to have, and we're just going to pretend that Emma said she wanted a nice drop and she didn't want to see the highlight right on top. So go forward in there and give that your highlight. Any other questions out there?
Nope, not yet.
You're doing good.
Will you show us both the end results again?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
before we get off? Okay.
Before we get off, for sure. Yeah, I'll show you the high contrast and the more of the natural. So again, I'm just subsectioning this for more of that ease for my client's hair, making sure that I'm giving that nice tease to it and pushing this in. And again, salon speed. With this, you can, you know, take this 45 minutes to an hour, which is, I think, pretty lovely. Pushing that on up. So what does everyone think? You think you could take a couple techniques, the whole technique, utilize it, take a client's name to it possibly?
Yeah, it's Jessica Mills coming to Buffalo.
Sounds good. Whenever New York can, right?
Right?
Right.
Would you say that her section is about 1/2 inch?
About 1/2 inch? Yeah, I would say about 1/2 inch. I wouldn't go any thicker than 1/2 inch personally, just because then, you know, you want to make sure that you're still saturating these sections completely. Like if I were to do this, I'm like, okay, I can still see between them. I can still get some really great saturation to her hair. I'm just going to give that one nice push up. And again, I'm just going one push with my tees because I do want this to be more of that dynamic money piece, if you will.
And explain to us one more time why you're teasing before you add the lightener.
Absolutely. So what I'm doing with the teasing is that's going to give me a little bit more of that like drop shadow or shadow root naturally. Whichever way you like to say that. And then that way, as soon as you pull this hair that you teased down and that combs into it, it's gonna give you a really beautiful blend to the hair. So that way you don't have to worry about any like harsh lines of, I guess, like demarcation, if you will, from the lightener. It's a little bit of an insurance. And then if you're someone that, you know, like at one point I was definitely that way. I was like, there's no way, I don't want to take that tease out at the back, you know, back station, at the bowl, shampoo bowl. All you have to do is, instead of trying to brush out the tease like horizontally like this and getting stuck, you just take your brush or comb, whatever you have, and go vertically, and that comes out naturally, really easy, really soft, and you're not like pulling at your client's scalp at all. So after we have those 3 slices, we'll move up the head. I'm going to be taking the outside stitch, and I want to make sure that I have that as my highlight, because when this falls, then you'll see that this piece, her temple's right where my thumb is here, and that's going to be her beautiful face frame. So that's super important on this piece to get those outside sections. Was there a question, Jess? No?
Yeah, I know we don't really typically talk about pricing, but there is a, how much would you charge for this technique?
That's a great question. With pricing in this technique, I mean, I definitely would say, you know, it is sort of like a balayage, foliage, end application. So whatever you typically charge in your salon space for a balayage application, I would do the same. So either like a full head highlight or that balayage.
Great advice. And are you no longer jogging the sections in the front?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. Am I no longer jogging or jigging or zigzagging the question or the sections in the front? I am. I feel like sometimes I do it so small. So it's not like a big zigzag. It's literally just like, I don't know if you guys can, well, that's, yeah. So it's not like a big like this. It's just like a small little shake of a section up top. Just to give me that small insurance to the section itself. Does that answer the question? Cool. And then the last and final piece, right? Like how easy is that? So last and final, same thing. Can you guys see the top there? I'll tip her back a little bit more so you can. There you go. So this last and final piece, just like up here where we left out that tip to keep as the highlight to spill over, I want to do the same thing with this. If you do have someone who really wants to see that highlight straight on top, I would just say like baby micro weave, nano stitch, however you want to say that, just so that way, you know, you don't really have that too dynamic of a 90s look, if you know what I'm saying. And then in here, again, since we took those outside, I'm just going to take this last one right on that inside, and I'm going to give this a 1, 2, 3 tees, just so that drop is really, really soft for me up here. If you want it super dynamic, then absolutely go less tees. The world's your oyster. So how are we feeling about that? Pretty good?
Awesome.
Cool? Awesome. Very cool. So again,
and as you said earlier, right, so just want to reinforce, I just responded to one so I didn't interrupt you.
Totally.
So this works either way. If somebody parts on the side, either the side, the middle, left, right, correct?
Yeah, I really do. I like that a lot. If they part on the side, left, right, middle. You know, if there's somebody who is like very like specific with their part, then maybe instead of having that triangle in the front here, I'd go a little like off to the side. But you really can get a whole lot of spill of color dynamically if you just leave it almost like as is, which is super fun too. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, another great one.
Why
haven't you used Freedom Blonde for any of the other sections?
So why haven't I used Freedom Blonde for any of the other sections? It was super funny. I had thought about that a couple days ago too, and the answer is you absolutely can utilize them if you want to. I just kind of liked having it in a foil. Personally myself, but I was like, I could absolutely use Freedom Blonde like for this whole application really, you know, maybe aside from, you know, maybe the front face, just keep in a foils to keep it out, or you could take them back. So if that is your preference, then you can absolutely go ahead and utilize it on the whole head as well. Just preference, I guess. Does that answer the question?
Gorgeous.
Cool.
Let's see those end results.
Let's see the end results. Okay, so we'll go back to, I guess we'll call her Emma 2 then. So Emma 2, so again, this was with the cream with 30, and then I just shampooed her after the After Color Care with the Silver Savior shampoo and conditioner from Caroline from Kuhn, just to neutralize that out a little bit. But I kind of dug a little bit of that warmth that was happening with the Semi 5.23 as that low light, and you can see kind of shake that around, and you really get like a fun contrast to it. And you'll see up in here, especially where we left out those points, that's what's going to give you that dark spill of color over all of that underneath blonde. Whereas in this Emma, I did end up, you'll see, like I did end up using like small highlights at the tips. So I guess this makes it more of like a modern end result, leaving her natural Emma Light level 7 base, if you will. But same thing, this was the cream with the 30 and the Silver Savior on the end. Yay! Awesome. So, how are we doing on time? Is that it? Do we have any? Yeah, we're good. Any other questions or anything? We're good?
One more question.
For sure.
Oh, actually, I have a couple, but I'll let you go back and answer some of them.
Okay, yeah.
When using Freedom Blonde, should you use a higher developer since it's open to air?
I think your level 30 and your 40 are going to give you the same amount of lift. If the concern is just having that warmth to it, that's when I love utilizing this Cool Booster packet, and that's what I added into this Emma here. So after this live, I'm actually going to finish this section for you guys, and I'll post her up so you can see the results on her as well on that. Does that answer the question for you? Cool.
And one more. What if your client has a fringe?
Oh, what if your client has a fringe? Yeah, so like what if she has something like this? I think that's definitely up to into the like consultation. I think it'd be really cool, you could still utilize that look, but maybe instead of going so chunky with the foils, I'd go the same foil placement that's in these head sheets that we'll share with you, but maybe go more into like a baby or nano weave just to keep it a little bit softer and still keep like that brightness around the face. But I think that's all in consultation with what your client wants to see. Cool?
The questions keep coming.
Oh, well, I'll make sure that I like come back and answer them for you guys. Absolutely. If you do have any questions, you can always like, you know, message me on my Instagram at Jessica_Bartolucci. I always love talking to you guys and chatting, like always, especially in these days, for sure. So, you know, keep up with us. Stay on the lives. On Wednesday, we have Gareth Palmer with Express Design, which I think is definitely something we're going to all be needing and utilizing behind the chair. And, you know, whether it's in these comments or on Kuhn's Facebook page, let us know what you want to see moving forward for continued live education. Thank you guys again so much for, you know, dealing with the technical difficulties in the beginning. We really, really appreciate it. It's so much fun, and I love it. I hope you guys use these looks, and I can't wait to see what you create with them. Cool. Thank you, guys.